You were not looked down on because you were incompetent. You were looked down on because you were too predictable. I know you don't like hearing that, but I have observed people like you too many times. You walk into a conversation with good intentions, with the desire to be respected, to be heard, and you believe that as long as you say the right things, as long as you behave kindly, everything will automatically unfold the way you want. No. Humans don't work that way. You say something reasonable, but no one responds. You send a message, and they reply very slowly. You try to show your value, but it seems like no one really cares, and you wonder what you did wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. You're just playing by the wrong rules. I used to be like you. I entered this world with a very simple belief that if I was knowledgeable, if I did my job well, if I behaved properly, then I would be recognized. But reality doesn't operate on that logic. Reality operates on power. And power has nothing to do with how good you are. It has to do with how others perceive you. This is something you were never taught. You were taught to work hard, to be kind, to try. But no one told you that if you don't control how others perceive you, then everything you do only makes you easier to ignore. You were thinking that you need to say more, explain more clearly, prove yourself more. No. That is exactly what is destroying your value. You don't realize it, but every time you try to be recognized, you are sending a very clear signal that you need acceptance. And anyone who needs acceptance is in a lower position. People don't say this out loud, but they feel it very quickly. You are not judged by what you say. You are judged by how you exist, how you react, how you wait, how you fill silence. Everything is speaking for you before you even open your mouth. And in the first few seconds, you are already placed into a position, either someone worth listening to or someone who can be ignored. You think you can change that by trying harder. No. The more you try, the deeper you sink into the same position. This is the paradox most people never understand. The more you want to be respected, the easier it is for you to be looked down on. And if you don't see this, you will keep repeating the same loop. Say more, try harder, be more disappointed, and wonder why nothing changes. But the problem is not what you do, it is how people read you, and you are sending the wrong signals from the start. The most dangerous part, you haven't even touched yet. You don't realize this, but everything you are doing is telling others that you have no power. I don't need to hear what you say. I just need to look at how you behave to know where you stand. You talk too much. You think that is openness. No, that is lack of control. You enter a conversation and you try to fill the gaps. You add one more idea, then another, then explain again to make it clear. You think that is smart, but to me, that is a sign of someone who cannot tolerate silence. And someone who cannot tolerate silence is always in a weaker position. You don't realize it, but the quietest person in the room is usually the most observed, and the one who talks the most is usually the most underestimated. You don't have to believe me. You have already seen it. You over-explain. You always want others to understand you. You make your point clear. You clarify your perspective. You make sure no one misunderstands. It sounds reasonable, but no one needs you to be that clear. You are trying to control how others think about you with words, while people with status never do that. They let others interpret, and that space creates weight for them. As for you, you leave no space. You explain everything, and when you explain everything, you lose your value as well. You always respond immediately. A message comes, you reply right away. Someone needs you, you show up immediately. An opportunity to speak, you grab it instantly. You think that is enthusiasm. No, that is over-availability. And over-availability is always seen as cheap. People do not value what is always available. They only value what they cannot control. You are giving others too much power. You are always there, whenever they need, and you think that makes you valuable. But in reality, it makes you replaceable. You wait for responses. You look at your phone, check if they replied. You wonder why they haven't responded. You start thinking, did I say something wrong? You adjust your behavior based on their reactions. This is where you completely lose power. You no longer control yourself. You are being controlled by someone else's silence. And the other person, they don't need to do anything, just not respond, and they already control your state. Don't you see how dangerous that is? You try to please. You adjust how you speak, how you behave, how you react to match the other person. You want them to feel comfortable. You want them to like you. But you don't realize every time you adjust like that, you are lowering yourself. You are telling them that you need them more than they need you. And in any relationship, the one who needs more is always the one who loses. You don't control your emotions. You react immediately when uncomfortable. You explain when misunderstood. You defend when attacked. You think that is self-protection, but to me, that is lack of control. People with power do not react. They choose timing. They choose how to respond. They do not let emotions lead. As for you, you let everything touch you, and you react instantly. That makes you easy to read. And once you are easy to read, you are easy to control. You are doing all of this without realizing it, and you still think, the problem is that you are not good enough. No, the problem is not capability. It is the signals you are sending, the signals of someone without status. And humans are very good at reading those signals. No thinking needed, just feeling. And once they feel you that way, everything you do afterward only reinforces that image. You cannot escape it by trying harder. You only sink deeper. But this is still not the real problem. What you have not seen lies in how people evaluate your value from the very beginning. You think others are evaluating you with logic. No, I have observed humans long enough to know they don't think as much as you believe. They feel, and they decide very quickly. You walk into a room, you haven't said anything, but your position has almost already been determined, not by words, but by signals. I call it power signals. You don't see it, but everyone around you is reading it constantly and almost unconsciously. You think you are expressing yourself, but in reality, you are being read through every small behavior, whether you speak fast or slow, whether you rush to respond or not, whether you can tolerate silence or not, whether you need recognition or not. All of it is data, and humans process that data within seconds. No thinking required, just instinct. You think, value is something you have. No. Value is something others believe you have, and that belief does not come from truth. It comes from how you show up. You can be very capable, but if you behave like someone who needs acceptance, you will be placed in the lower group. You may not be outstanding, but if you can control yourself and do not emit needy signals, you will be perceived differently. This is something you were never taught, because it is not pretty, it is not fair.
but it is real. Humans do not respect true value. They respect perceived value. And that perception is built from two things: control and space. You have neither. You react too quickly. You talk too much. You fill every silence. You leave no space for others to think about you. And when there is no space, there is no weight. You become light. And what is light is always ignored. You think others are intentionally looking down on you. No, most of them are not trying. They are simply responding correctly to the signals you emit. You are not being attacked. You are being categorized. And once you are categorized, everything becomes very simple. They don't need to listen to you. They don't need to prioritize you. They don't need to respect you, because in their system, you are not in a position that requires that. This is the part you don't want to accept, but I will say it directly. You are not looked down on because you are incompetent. You are looked down on because you are replaceable. And humans always sense that, very quickly, very accurately. A person with value does not need to prove it. They don't need to talk much. They don't need to explain. They don't need to respond immediately. And that itself makes them hard to grasp. And what cannot be grasped always creates attention. You are the opposite. You are too clear, too easy to understand, too predictable. And what is predictable never has power. You think you need to improve your skills, improve your communication, improve your knowledge. No, that is not the root problem. The root lies in how you are perceived, and that perception is formed before you even get to demonstrate anything. This is why all your efforts are backfiring. The more you try, the more you reinforce the old image. The more you want recognition, the less you are worth recognizing. That is the paradox, and you are stuck in it. But the most important thing you still haven't seen is that the way out is not by doing more, but by doing the opposite. You think you need to do more. No, you need to do less. I know this sounds wrong, but what you are doing is exactly what is pulling you down. You try to be liked. You become more friendly, more approachable, more open. You think that is how you connect. But I will say it directly. Humans do not respect those who are easily accessible. They respect those who have boundaries. The more accessible you are, the more you are taken lightly. You do not create distance. You do not create scarcity. And what has no scarcity has no value. You think you need to be clearer. You want others to understand you. You explain. You clarify. You make sure there is no misunderstanding. It sounds right, but you are doing the opposite. You are destroying your own mystery. And when there is nothing left to guess, nothing left to discover, you become ordinary. People with value do not say everything. They leave space, and that space makes others think about them. You don't. You say everything, and you make yourself light. You think responding quickly is good. You reply immediately. You show up immediately. You are always available. You think that is professionalism. No, that is lack of control. Someone who is always available is always in a lower position because they have no choice. While someone with power chooses, they do not respond immediately. They do not need to. And that itself creates the difference. You think you need to prove yourself. You try to show your value. You try to let others see that you are capable. You think if they see enough, they will respect you. No, the more you prove, the more you show that you need recognition. And someone who needs recognition never has power. A person with value does not need validation. They exist, and that is in a way that makes you replaceable, and you don't realize it. Humans do not respect effort. They respect position, and position does not come from doing more. It comes from
controlling how you show up. You think power is controlling others. No, power begins with not being controlled. You are not pulled into reactions. You are not dependent on responses. You do not need to start paying attention to you. This is the paradox. The less you need, the more you have. The more you need, the more you lose. I will say it directly. People do not respect you because you are good. People respect you because they cannot control you. And right now, you are too easy to control, too easy to why, too predictable, and that is position. But if you understand this, you can change, not by trying harder, but by stopping the things that are making you weak and starting to rebuild how you show up. You think you have understood the problem. No. Understanding does not help you change your position. I have met many people. They under that it is correct. They agree, and then nothing changes. Because understanding does not create power. Behavior creates power. And your problem is not that you lack knowledge, but that you are repeating the behaviors that make you weak every day without realizing it. You do not need more theory, you need to cut. Cut the things that are destroying your position and replace them with behaviors that make others unable to take you lightly anymore. But before you begin, you must understand one thing. What I am about to say will go against your to return to your old ways. Good, because your current self is the reason you are in this position. If you do not change how you behave, do not expect others to change how they treat you. Start here. Strategy 1. Control your speech. You do not talk too much because you like talking. You talk too much because you are afraid of being ignored. I do not need to hear you say. I only need to observe your speaking rhythm to know what position you are in. People without status always try to fill the gaps. They add one more sentence, then another idea, then explain again just to make sure they are not misunderstood. But you do not realize that every time you add more, you are reducing your own weight. In a room, the most dangerous person is not the one who talks the most. It is the one who speaks little, but at the moment. When they are silent, no one pays attention. But when they speak, everyone stops. Not because they are smarter, but because they control themselves. You do not. You react to silence as if it is a threat. You rush to in, you rush to add, you rush to prove that you are still present. And that urgency reveals that you need attention. A person who needs attention is always in a lower position. You must learn you do not need to fill it. When there is space, let it exist. You observe, you wait. And only when you truly have something worth saying, you speak. Not to be heard, but because you decide to speak. At first, you will feel uncomfortable. You will feel like you are disappearing. You will want to go back to your old way. Do not. You are not disappearing. You are gaining weight. People who speak less are not silent because they have nothing to say. They choose not to speak, and that choice creates power. Strategy 2. Control your presence. You are always available. That is the problem. You show up immediately when there is an opportunity. You are always ready when someone needs you. You think that is a strength? No. That is a sign that you have. I have seen this over and over. The person who is always available is always taken lightly. Not because they are not good, but because they are too accessible. People do not value what they can have anytime. They value what can disappear. When you always respond immediately, you are unintentionally telling others that your time has no value, that you have nothing more important than them, that you are always there. You are not saying it, but your behavior is. Controlling your presence is not disappearing. It is choosing when you appear. A message comes, you do not need to reply immediately. You read, you understand, you leave it. You reply when you want, not when they expect. At work, you do not need to be the first to respond. You observe, you let others speak first. You appear when you have something worth saying. In relationships, you do not need to maintain the connection alone. If they are silent, you are silent too. At first, you will worry. You will think you are losing connection. No, you are creating space. And that space makes others start to feel your absence. People with power do not appear constantly. They appear enough to be remembered and disappear enough to be sought. Strategy 3. Stop explaining. You always want to be understood. That is a weakness. You explain because you are afraid of being misunderstood. You clarify because you are afraid of being judged incorrectly. You add details because you want to control how others see you. But you cannot control that. And the more you try, the more you reveal that you need it. People with status do not over-explain. They say it once. If others understand, good. If not, they do not fix their image. Not because they are right, but because they are not dependent on agreement. You are the opposite. You need others to understand you to feel okay. And the moment you need that, you lose power. I have seen very capable people, but because they always explain, always justify, always try to clarify everything, they are seen as weak. Not because they are wrong, but because they cannot control their need to be understood. You must learn to tolerate being misunderstood. Not always correct. Not always respond, not always clarify. Sometimes silence is the strongest answer. When you stop explaining, others begin to interpret you themselves. And that process makes you harder to predict. And what is hard to predict always has value. Strategy 4. Control your emotions. You think your problem is other people. No. Your problem is that you cannot control yourself. You react immediately when uncomfortable. You explain when misunderstood. You defend when attacked. You think that is natural reflex. Correct. And that is also why you are easy to control. Whoever controls your emotions controls you. They only need to stay silent. You worry. They only need to become cold. You change. They only need to react. You lose control. You do not realize you are being led. People with power do not react immediately. They observe. They hold their state. They do not let anyone pull them out of control. That is not easy. You will want to react. You will want to speak. You will want to fix. Do not. Hold it. You do not need to react immediately to prove strength. You prove it by not being triggered. When you do not react as expected, the other person starts to lose rhythm. And the moment they lose rhythm, you gain advantage. Power is not what you do. Power is what you are not forced to do. Strategy 5. Mirror behavior. You always try to adjust to fit others. That is why you are led. You soften when they are strong. You yield when they push. You change when they change. You think that is flexibility. No, that is losing your center. People with status do not adjust to please. They mirror. If someone respects you, you open. If they are cold, you are cold. If they keep distance, you keep distance. Not to retaliate, but to maintain balance. Humans learn through reflection. When they see their behavior returned, they begin to recognize themselves. If you always give more, they will take more. If you always yield, they will push. But if you mirror, they will have to adjust. You do not need to teach them how to treat you. You just need to reflect exactly what they give. That is the fastest way to reset your position. You have heard everything I said, but that does not mean you will change. I have seen too many people. They understand very clearly, they nod, they see it as correct, and then nothing happens. They return to how they speak, how they react, how they need others, and their position does not change. Not because they are incapable, but because they do not dare to let go of their old self. You do not need another video, you need a decision. Just one. Stop one behavior that is making you weak. Not all, just one. And do it long enough for others to start seeing you differently. This world is not fair. Good people are not automatically respected. People who understand how humans operate have position. You may not like that, but you are still living in it. And from here you have two choices. Continue being someone easy to ignore, or become someone who is not easy to control. I have said enough. If you truly understand this, write down below one thing you will stop starting today. Not for me to see, but so you do not forget. And if you want to go further, not motivation, but how the real world operates, subscribe to the Rise of Mind channel, not to hear comfortable things, but to understand what is real. And if you know someone who is stuck in the same position as you, send this video to them, not to teach them, but so they can see themselves. Most people will never accept these things, but if you stayed, you are already different.